In 1898, heroin was prescribed for children's coughs. Mothers with a doctor's prescription were getting their children addicted to heroin. When we hear the word heroin, our minds immediately jump to Germany, the Bayer Company, and the pharmacies of the 19th century. But the truth is, the story of this deadly substance began 1,000 kilometers away and 23 years earlier. London, the year 1874. The cold evening fog had settled over the city streets. In a corner of St. Mary's Hospital, inside a room where the smell of acid and alcohol seeped from the walls, a man was working on a new project. A project that would make him the father of one of the most dangerous drugs in history. Charles Wright, a chemist, a researcher, a man driven by pure curiosity. One of those people who spent nights with experiments and welcomed the morning with formulas. He was trying to create a painkiller that could erase human suffering. At the time, the only true painkiller in the world was morphine, powerful but filled with side effects. Wright thought to himself, if I slightly change the structure of morphine, maybe I can create a drug that is just as strong but without the drawbacks. He took morphine powder, mixed it with acetic anhydride, and placed the compound over a flame. Hours passed. The liquid boiled, steam settled on the glass, and the bubbling sound echoed like the ticking of a quiet chemical bomb. When the solution cooled and dried, something appeared that no one had ever seen before. A white, transparent substance, diacetyl morphine. Wright didn't know it, but at that exact moment, one of the most dangerous narcotics in human history was sitting inside the glass container in front of him. To test its effects, he sent a small amount of the substance to his colleague, Dr. Pierce, to be tested on laboratory dogs. And the result was a disaster. The dogs developed breathing problems. They trembled, collapsed into confused sleep, and vomited. Nothing about it felt like a painkiller. There was no calm, no relief. Wright reached only one conclusion. This substance is toxic and completely worthless. He wrote a paper, recorded the formula, closed the file, and placed the glass container on a shelf in the corner of the lab. And just like that, the formula for heroin was forgotten for 23 years, until 23 years later, in Germany, a small dye manufacturing company decided to take another look. 23 years had passed since that day. The formula for diacetyl morphine was buried in old reports, and no one even remembered its name. Then the scene shifted. From foggy London to industrial Germany. 1897, Elberfeld. At the heart of the city stood a factory that would later become one of the most famous pharmaceutical companies in the world, Bayer. Few people realize this, but Bayer did not begin as a pharmaceutical company. They produced textile dyes from coal and petroleum byproducts. Inside one of the company's laboratories, a young chemist was at work, Felix Hoffmann. Just days earlier, Hoffmann had succeeded in creating a drug whose name today exists in almost every household, aspirin. That success left Hoffmann eager to chase his next challenge. His goal, and that of his supervisor, Heinrich Dresser, was to find a replacement for morphine, a powerful painkiller, without the danger of addiction. While reviewing old files, Hoffmann came across a faded and forgotten report written by Charles Wright, a simple but strange formula, diacetyl morphine. Hoffmann decided to repeat the experiment. August 10th, 1897, the Bayer Laboratory. Hoffmann poured morphine powder into a container and once again mixed it with acetic anhydride, the exact same process Wright had performed 23 years earlier. The vapors rose, the chemical reaction completed, and the result was the same white powder. But unlike Wright, the German team made one crucial decision. Their first test subjects would be the factory's own workers and employees. When the volunteers took a small dose, the outcome was completely different from what Wright had observed. The workers said, "Our pain is gone. Our bodies feel lighter. There's a strange energy inside us, like heroes." That single word changed the course of history. In German, heroic is heroisch. Bayer's executives shortened the word and created a brand name that would later shake the world, heroin. And just like that, a dangerous substance was reborn, this time ready to conquer the global market. You might be wondering now, how was this even possible? Where were the standards? What was the FDA doing? The truth is, There were no strict laws for drug testing. In the 1890s, the pharmaceutical market looked more like the Wild West, and that chaos gave Bayer the greatest opportunity in its history. In the very year Hoffman and Dresser created heroin, the only thing required to release a new drug was printing a promotional brochure. That was it. Bayer introduced heroin to the world as a painkiller stronger than morphine, not addictive, a special medicine for children's coughs, and even a treatment for depression and anxiety. And because it carried the name of a large, trusted company like Bayer, doctors across Europe and the United States prescribed it without hesitation. In 1898, Bayer printed the first official heroin brochure. On the cover, there was an image of a doctor in a white coat, holding up a small bottle with a confident smile. Below it, the text read, "Heroin, a safe substitute for morphine." Small sample boxes were sent to doctors for free. Tiny glass bottles filled with white powder, sealed with the stamp, "Heroin, Bayer." Doctors began prescribing it almost immediately. Early heroin prescriptions appeared in pharmacies as syrups, tablets, and even injectable ampules. People saw the name Bayer on the packaging, and that alone was enough to build trust. No one knew that this substance was twice as addictive as morphine. Newspapers across Europe and the United States filled their pages with advertisements that today seem impossible to believe. Ads with slogans like, "Treat your child's cough with heroin," "A safe medicine for the whole family," "Effective for colds and insomnia." In less than 2 years, heroin was exported to 23 countries. In the United States, doctors wrote it into prescriptions. In Europe, it was called the medicine of the century. And no one realized that the first people to become dependent on this medical miracle would be children. Heroin entered the world like a hero, and no one knew it was about to become a global catastrophe. Less than a few months after heroin entered the market, new versions of the drug began appearing on store shelves. Small glass syrup bottles with labels showing smiling children. Beneath the image, the text read, "For children's cough, fast-acting and safe." This was the moment when the disaster quietly and gently entered family bedrooms. Mothers who went to pharmacies to treat their child's cold never imagined that the bottle of syrup in their hands would later be described by doctors as one of the most addictive substances ever created by humans. Doctors, trusting Bayer's brochures, prescribed heroin freely for nighttime coughs, for insomnia, for anxiety. They told mothers this drug was a mild sedative that would help children sleep peacefully. No one knew that peaceful sleep was actually the result of severe nervous system suppression. The first reports began emerging from Europe. Parents said their children became restless after the medication was stopped. They cried. They developed fevers. They showed intense cravings for the syrup. But at that time, the word withdrawal had not yet entered medical language. In the United States, the situation was even worse. Pharmacies sold children's heroin syrup freely, with no age restrictions and no regulations. By the late 19th century, the world was battling one of the deadliest diseases in history, tuberculosis, a disease that slowly destroyed the lungs and killed more than 1/3 of those infected. Dry coughs, night attacks, sudden suffocation. Families lived in fear of tuberculosis, knowing that once it entered a home, it could linger for years. Doctors had no effective treatment. The only thing that could bring relief was medication that suppressed the cough, a painkiller that hid the truth. This pattern continued until around 1910. Heroin syrups were still being sold, prescriptions were still being written, and patients still believed they were recovering. But during these same years, the first signs began to appear, quietly and almost unnoticed. Patients who seemed to be getting better would suddenly, on the very day the syrup ran out, develop symptoms that had nothing to do with tuberculosis. Restlessness, trembling hands, extreme weakness, cold sweats, and an unexplainable need to continue the medication. The number of these reports increased, so much so that some doctors began to suspect that the problem wasn't the disease, but the substance itself. This was the first time anyone directly pointed to addiction, a concept that, at the time, was still poorly understood and not yet clearly defined. In the early 1900s, there was one man who noticed something different, something others refused to see. Charles B. Towns, the director of a rehabilitation center in New York. For years, his patients followed a clear pattern: older men, war veterans, wealthy individuals who had used morphine for chronic pain. But at the beginning of the 1900s, that pattern suddenly changed. Towns noticed his waiting room filling with young people between 16 and 20 years old. Boys and girls who weren't there because of surgery or medical pain, but for recreation. These teenagers were snorting the drug through their noses, a fast method that required no prescription and was easily accessible on the streets. Towns soon saw what they were doing to pay for their doses. They stole scrap metal from construction sites and warehouses, junk, and sold it to buy the next hit. Because of this, the new generation earned a new name: junkie. Young people who were willing to sell anything for heroin. In his reports, Towns wrote, "This substance is not medicine. It is a full-fledged narcotic." That sentence was the final blow to heroin's credibility. By 1913, American hospitals were filled with patients who no longer had coughs or pain. They just wanted the drug. On the streets of New York, theft and violence were on the rise. Doctors reported that patients were becoming tolerant to higher doses, and this growing addiction put increasing pressure on the government and the media. Bayer realized that continuing production would mean the complete destruction of its reputation. So the company stopped producing heroin. The advertisements disappeared, and Bayer shifted all its focus to its safer product, aspirin. It was as if the company was trying to erase history. But it was far too late. Even after Bayer stopped production, the heroin formula had already spread. In 1914, the U.S. Congress passed the Heroin Act, the first serious law banning the sale of narcotics without a prescription. But prohibition didn't solve the problem. It only moved it. Heroin disappeared from pharmacy shelves and reappeared in basements and black markets. Finally, in 1924, the U.S. Congress made its final decision. The production, importation, and sale of heroin were banned in all forms. Within just a few years, a drug that was once sold next to cough syrup and cold drops became one of the most dangerous illegal commodities in the world. A drug that was meant to heal pain became one of the deadliest disasters in medical history, born from blind trust and the absence of oversight. Sometimes, the most dangerous monsters are born wearing the mask of medicine.